I, 32 female, am married to my husband, Andy, 35 male, for 5 years. A year after our wedding, my mother-in-law passed away. I told my husband we should ask his dad, Jacob, 71, to live with us or with his sister, Monica, 38. I think it's the Asian in me that makes me feel we are obligated to take care of my father-in-law. My husband called his sister, Monica. She lives in Massachusetts and we live in Ohio. Her husband, Arthur, was against the idea. He told us they have no room in their house. They have an extra bedroom, but it's for guests. Arthur insisted to just move Jacob to a retirement house. Arthur told us how when Andy and Monica were kids, Jacob was busy, strict, and they don't have the best relationship. Andy then said, yeah, Dad was strict, and sometimes he said something cruel. But that is the past, and he is a different person now. I asked, will it be okay if we ask Jacob to stay with us? They said yes. When we asked Jacob if he wants to move with us, he was grateful but declined the offer. 4 months after our conversation, I gave birth to our baby boy. Jacob visited us and he changed his mind. He chose to stay with us and we could not be happier. Since last year, Jacob's health has been declining. I took care of him. I was there for every surgery. His doctors told me he only has 3 months and suggested for him to be at a home with his family. At this point, Jacob already lives with us for 3 years. I do everything in my power to make him feel comfortable. He died 2 weeks ago. In the will, he gave Monica $5 million, and he set up a $500,000 trust fund for each of their kids. They have 2 kids, so total $1 million. He gave Andy $3 million and a cabin in Aspen, Colorado, worth around $2 million. He knew Andy will enjoy the cabin in the winter. He also set up a trust fund for our kid, $500,000. He gave me $5 million too. He wrote that he is grateful Andy found me and that he loved me like his own kid. I cried when I read the will. Yesterday, I received a call from Arthur. He is demanding me to share my inheritance with him. He said that he is entitled to half of my inheritance because he is with Monica longer than Andy with me. They need more money because they have more kids. I was shocked, and I told him I'll discuss it with Andy. Arthur starts cursing at me and said that no, I don't need to discuss this with my husband. It's between me and him. I hung up. Arthur even told Andy's cousins how it is unfair, how they should get some of the inheritance too. Most of the cousins disagreed with him, but there is one cousin, Jake, 35, that feels he is entitled to some of the inheritance. They've been calling me a greedy a-hole. Andy told me to do what I want with my money, but he reminds me that his dad wanted me to have this money, not Arthur or Jake. My gut told me not to share the inheritance, but I am sick of the calls and texts. I am still grieving, and I want to keep the peace in the family. I am torn. Am I the a-hole if I did not share my inheritance? Not the a-hole. Jacob loved you and left you a lovely gift to show you he cherished you and was thankful for all you did for him. Monica and Arthur told you how they were not close to him, but he still left them money and their kids. Arthur is not entitled to anything. He's just jealous. Do not give him a dime. I doubt he even gave Jacob the time of day. Keep your gift for you and your family, and block Arthur and that greedy cousin on everything. Not the a-hole. Like, isn't the $5 million his wife got enough for him? Holy hell. You are a good person, and made your father-in-law's last years fantastic. Arthur can go shove it. Father-in-law knew what he was doing. Arthur will probably find some way to take his wife's $5 million anyways. Not the a-hole. Don't give them the money. It sounds like none of them had anything to do with his care. They didn't want him to live with him, and they didn't come help take care of him, or even visit by the sounds of it. As a former caregiver, I know exactly how much work it is to care for someone from home, especially as the end nears. You made him family and didn't leave him in the cold or put him in a home. You and your husband deserve what he left you, and the naysayers will just have to choke that fact down. Not 1 penny. If he wanted that money to go to brother-in-law or the cousin, it would have been left to them. My 26 female sister Chelsea, 33 female, is currently pregnant with her 3rd baby. Her husband, John, is your typical Disney dad. Doesn't do much to help out with his kids, and if he's not at work, he's hanging out with his friends rather than helping look after his home. Chelsea is totally okay with this because you can't expect men to keep house, and he has a good income. My family has pretty traditional values. A couple days ago, Chelsea called me asking if I wanted to come over after work to spend some time with the kids. I love my niece and nephew, and I had some time to spare, so I say sure. I arrive at her house. Mom was there as well, helping out, and she asks me if I could help with some of the chores. I agree. Now, my fiancé and I actually planned a date night for that night. We haven't had one in a while because he's on duty almost 24/7. I told Mom and Chelsea I'm going to leave to meet up with fiancé. Mom asks if I can stay back a bit more to help with the kids' dinner and stuff. I say sorry, but I need to go. I've already stayed over an hour. Chelsea then says that I'm not being supportive of her and I can stay a bit longer for moral support. Again, I say I can't. When Chelsea tells Mom, "Oh, let her go, it's fine. It's not her fault she doesn't understand what it's like to have a family." John came home by this time and is listening in to all the commotion. So I tell them, in a pretty annoyed tone I'll admit, if you had a supportive husband instead of one who shows up when it's convenient for him, you wouldn't need your sister to make up for that support. Everyone looks a bit shocked. Then Chelsea says, at least she's not a working wife, like I'm going to be. Honestly, don't even know what that means, but sure. And that I'm jealous, and brother-in-law says I'm disrespecting them and to leave, which of course I was more than happy to do. Mom calls me the next day saying I went too far, and Chelsea was hurt after hearing me say those things, and feels distant from me. She said that I was intentionally making Chelsea sick. That's obviously not my intention at all, and I feel pretty bad now, but I also feel like what I said needed to be said, you know? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Nobody gets sick from being reminded their husband could put in his fair share of effort on the childcare front, unless they're making themselves sick, especially not after trying to pull the "you're just jealous" card. Tell Mom if she's not going to join you in making Chelsea take some responsibility for her life choices, she can at least leave you out of it and ignore any further efforts to put this on you. Not the a-hole. Coming over to see niece, nephew does not equal free cleaning service. I think it's your sister feeling sick because she knows you're right and is jealous of you and your life. Don't let it faze you and move on. Not the a-hole. She's this upset because what you said came too close to the truth. That's all there is to it. She has a lazy husband and refuses to do anything about it. That's on her. She tricked you into coming over for free housework from the sounds of it. If she'd really thought this was an okay thing to do, she'd have been honest and asked you to come over for that reason. But she knew you wouldn't want to, and she'd look bad trying to force it. So she BS'd you instead. Then she tried to push you into staying when you wanted to leave. Then she wants to talk crap and try to make you feel bad. Ew. She may be going through something, but she owes you an apology that you'll probably never get. Next time she wants something, just let her know that as a future working wife, your plate is already too full to come and play housemaid for her. My mom's mom died last week, and her funeral is this Saturday. My dad and mom divorced when I was 1 and have been on pretty good terms for decades now. He is coming to my grandma's funeral, I thought with just his mom. A little backstory about my dad's girlfriend. I will try to keep it short, but I can answer any questions needed in the comments. My dad has been with my stepmom for over 15 years. She was wonderful and amazing and good to me and my sisters. I love her very much. She did a selfless job and loved my dad unconditionally. My dad, though he denies it, has been having an affair for 2 years with a lady named Cindy. He recently left my stepmom and moved in with her. Now, I know Cindy. I have known her for years, and I actually quite liked her. But considering what went down, I have chose to not support their relationship. I won't go to their house, and I have limited seeing my dad to holidays at my grandmother's house. I had it out with my dad, and I am civil with Cindy, but I don't have a desire to take part in that. So currently this week has been hell. My mother is spiraling. She has always been a bit emotionally unstable, but this has caused her to lose it. She is fighting with her siblings. She is fighting with my sister. She is emotional and erratic, and she just lost her mom, and I am always the voice of reason. On top of that, I'm going through a pretty rough breakup. Just got a promotion at work that has doubled my workload, and my family is out of their minds currently. It's a lot. My dad calls me today. I'm at work and was up all night playing mediator between my sister and my mom. He calls. I tell him I am stressed and my mom isn't doing well, and I'm literally first day in my new position and buried in work. He asks some question, and I'm rather distracted, and then he asks if it's okay that he brings Cindy. I just got quiet, and I said, "You do whatever you feel like you need to do." He said okay, said I love you, and we hung up. I have spent the last 15 minutes staring blankly at this screen. I'm tired, I'm emotionally drained. I feel like I'm moments away from a freaking breakdown, and I just don't want to have this argument. So, do I just let it go? Do I just say screw it and smile and deal with what's important? Am I just so overly emotional that it's not a big deal and I'm overreacting? I just feel like he is pushing her on me, and why the duck does she even want to come? She isn't part of this family. She doesn't know anyone. If it were my stepmom, I would say of course. She knew my grandma and my mom. I'm just confused and drained and would love some guidance. Dad's trying to move his new squeeze into the family when you all are vulnerable, which is pretty pushy and rather trashy. I think that you need to call him and tell him not to bring her, that you were in a dazed state when you spoke with him before and hadn't thought the thing through. Then call his mother, your other grandma, and tell her about the situation. I think that it is likely that she will add her voice to yours and tell him not to bring Cindy. A bit of background info. My aunt and uncle own a house that my mom rents, but they still have a room in because of convenience. After college, my cousin, their son, and I moved in. Since it's close to the city and we both got jobs close by. We all get along, have our own thing going on, and the dynamic is good. But my uncle brings in lots of tension. He's usually here about 2 nights a week. My uncle and aunt have a very toxic relationship and are basically separated but not officially divorced. He is constantly cheating on her, putting their business in debt, and has another family among other things. My uncle's relationship with my cousin is bad. My aunt and little cousins live in a different city, and we all avoid him as much as possible. My cousin took his mom and siblings on a vacation, and they all left their cars here, along with their keys in case we needed to move them for whatever reason. Today, I came back from a road trip with my mom to find my uncle's car had been moved all the way to the front of the driveway and stored away, and he was driving my aunt's car. I didn't think much of it. He thought no one was home and brought his other kids home and was shocked to see me. So he just took them to his room and pretended like nothing had happened. 5 minutes later, he was like, "I gotta go drive them to their swimming lessons." We all know about the kids from his affair, so I was just confused because he knows we can't bring them into this house. I think this is incredibly disrespectful to my aunt, and I know my cousin and aunt would be livid if they found out that they had been using her car to drive his other family. Not to mention that my uncle is reckless, and I wouldn't put it past him to leave trails that he was using this car to do this, and my little cousins could find it. I asked him if he was driving around his other kids in my aunt's car. He got defensive and told me to mind my own business, and I asked if she knew. We got into a heated argument where I threatened to call my aunt and cousin, and he started screaming at me, basically kicking me out of the house, where I pay rent, and telling me to never speak to him in my life, gladly. He left with her car, and I'm sure will continue driving it around. Now I don't know what to do. I obviously don't want to call my aunt and cousin and ruin their vacation, but if I were in their position, I would want to know. I also want to warn them to not leave their car keys with him in the future. I'm moving out of this place in a week and honestly could care less about this uncle, but I don't want to cause more drama and pain for my aunt and cousin, who are my closest family members. Should I tell them when they come back, during their vacation? Not at all. Wait until she's back from vacation and then tell her everything. Take notes so you don't forget any details. If he does it again, get proof via pictures or a recording of what he says to you. Check the laws on recording conversations without consent in your state first. This is a really serious issue, but it is not an emergency. It is hardwired into us humans to treat everything really serious as if it's an emergency. That's natural. It's big, it's disturbing, and as far as our lizard brain is concerned, anything that sparks those emotions is probably going to eat you, and so you need to respond immediately. I'm assuming your aunt knows the full story of her husband's other family, that the issue is solely him using her stuff and inviting the other family into her space. This is one of those things you pick your moment for. Don't interrupt her holiday. Don't tell her the second she gets back, exhausted from lugging her suitcase and longing for a shower. But within a few days of her getting back, call her or meet with her for coffee or drop by. Sit with her and tell her briefly, calmly, and as neutrally as possible. This happened nearly 30 years ago, but it is just another instance of these friends of ours always having things their way. I'm still a bit salty about it when I look at our wedding pictures, which I did over the weekend. We got married in the middle of summer, outdoor wedding. We got married on the dock of a beautiful lake at sunset. Our lighting was citronella candles so we could have candlelight and keep bugs away. Knowing it was going to be hotter than hell still, when shopping for dresses with my maid of honor and 2 bridesmaids, we opted for dresses that were very lightweight cotton, very similar to a t-shirt dress with a flared skirt. Mine was white with pink flowers. Maid of honor was blue with pink flowers. Bridesmaids were pink with blue flowers. I paid for them along with jewelry and hair accessories, and our matching bouquets. I only asked for them to pay for their white sandals, which we got at Payless for BOGO, dividing the total cost between the 3, which was $20 each. I requested hair up, didn't care style, just up, and light makeup. For my husband and his best man, groomsmen, again, knowing how hot it would be, hubby wore a plain white t-shirt. They wore pale blue ones, cargo jean shorts, and white canvas sneakers. We paid for the shirts and shoes. They all had shorts already, and as long as they weren't stained or had holes, I didn't care. By the way, maid of honor and best man are married, as were our bridesmaids and groomsmen. Maid of honor and best man were the couple that introduces us. One bridesmaid was my best friend, her husband being a groomsman. Another groomsman was husband's other best friend besides best man, and his wife was one of my bridesmaids. Maid of honor did say she didn't think our choice of clothing was really wedding appropriate, but everyone else was happy with it. We had been together for over 10 years, had 3 children, and we just decided to make it legal finally and throw a party. We were to meet an hour before the wedding for some pictures. Maid of honor and best man were 30 minutes late. My jaw hit the floor when they got out of the car. I saw best man first. He's wearing a dress shirt and tie with khakis. Maid of honor gets out of her car, and she's wearing what I can only describe as a dress my grandma would wear for Easter Sunday to church. Hair is curled and sprayed to the heavens, still rocking the 80s hair in the early 90s. Heavy makeup that looked like it was going to slide off her face already. I didn't want them being part of my bridal party. Everyone else convinced me it was okay. They stood out like sore thumbs, not only with the wedding party, but with the guests. I didn't speak to them for a year, but our mutual friends convinced me to start talking to them again. There have been several incidents that caused me to cut contact for 6 months to a year. They finally pushed me too far, or rather she did, about 5 years ago, and I cut them off for good. They realized I was done when about 4 years ago they showed up at our house and I called the police to have them removed. Husband still hangs out occasionally with best man. Wow, they seriously tried to upstage your wedding, and in all honesty, were possibly extremely uncomfortable in the heat. By the way, your wedding sounds beautiful.